Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are continuing our theme for the month of September, and that has been all about the idea of growing your youth group. And so this is kind of coming off of last month where we talked about how to start right and how to have basically the things in motion to get that initial go. And then, of course, now we're looking at, for a lot of people, the fall is kind of the big part of your youth program, because there are less sports being played. Yes, football is happening, but football typically does not pull as many people as it does in the spring when you have volleyball and basketball and cross country, volleyball and basketball and track and baseball and softball and all the other sports that are over there, plus not to mention all the other extracurriculars with dance and theater and all those things. And so a lot of times we look at fall as this opportunity to not only start off right, but we also use it as an opportunity to really, really work on the group dynamic and the growth dynamic of how we are doing. And so with that, the conversation for today is this mindset of like, in order to have group growth, you have to partner with parents. And so not only will partnering with parents be a pivotal thing for your life as a youth pastor and your longevity as a youth pastor, but partnering with parents is also a tremendous way for you to utilize another resource to grow your group. Because if your parents are behind you, then they will start talking to their friends, which have more kids, which will bring more kids. And so using this opportunity is a really, really great way to not only build a strong communication, but then you also just have the great opportunity to utilize this as an opportunity for growth as well. And so I could list a couple different stories, but one of the stories that really, really pops to my head was in my last youth ministry. We had a leader and a parent named Stephanie, and her daughter was a senior when I started, and I could tell from the get-go that she was like, "Hey, I will do anything for this program because I believe in it. I want to see it happen. I want to see it work." And so I very, very much took it and ran with it. She became a dynamic leader in our group. And then ultimately, out of that, she ended up doing a lot with different opportunities and different things for our students. She became one of my main leaders. She was one of my biggest voices for the youth ministry inside the church. And so she was constantly talking and sharing with people on how things went. And it got to a season to where I looked at our adult volunteers and I was like, wow, we have 11 adult volunteers up here. She single-handedly brought 9 of these 11, which is really, really cool. And so it's a great opportunity to utilize and to just have parent backing as a resource for you to help your youth group not only grow, but also use them for tons of different opportunities and allow them to pour into the lives of the peers of their students, which is really, really good. And so how do we go, and this is the question kind of that will, I guess, really be the conversation point for today. David, how do we go from informing parents? Because I think a lot of times we kind of get stuck in that bubble of just like, oh, hey, parents, here's what's going on, to involving parents in the life and week-to-week activities of youth.
Yeah, I say this all the time, but I think it bears repeating every day of the week. The best way to involve parents is to utilize their passions, what they're good at, what they enjoy, um, and also understanding what your own weaknesses are. Um, and so for me personally, I'm a pretty creative guy for the most part, but I can't cook to save my life. Somewhat a lie. I can cook okay, but for myself, I'm not good at cooking for a large group of people. I overthink it and it stresses me out. And, when it comes to, we talk about longevity of youth ministry, there are things that stress you out and take way too much bandwidth to um, really operate the best way that you can. And so I look at certain things and I'm like, man, if it takes this much bandwidth to for me to be able to focus enough to get it done, then I need to hand it off to somebody else. And so, one of our best ways to partner with parents is we have a semester sign up of meals on our Sunday night youth. We always do a meal, and so we have a rotation of parents that cook the meal. And that there are times where I do cook um, and stuff like that. Anytime we don't have somebody or something falls through or whatever, but it frees me up to focus on things that I am good at, like worship and other things like that. And so, in those moments, like this last summer, I because of how crazy busy everybody's schedule is, I don't do a sign up for summer youth, and so I end up cooking a lot. And there were definitely several Sundays where I was just like, okay, I've got to plan a game and I've got to cook a meal, and I'm not good at either one. And there were some Sundays where by the time I actually got to the worship part and the stuff, and and preaching and the things that I am good at, I felt like I had no energy to do them. And that's a reminder that, man, we desperately need parents who are good at those things so that we can better do our job and be more effective with our students. If we're so stressed out and burned out by the time we get to youth because of different things that we're not as good at, or we're trying to push through a weakness, which is absolutely something we have to do it from time to time. We can't just delegate everything off all the time. It's sure nice when we can, but and you definitely have to push through those things. But in those moments, when you do have the opportunity to just focus on your strengths, and allow other people to, and like elevate other people to use their strengths as well, man, you can do nothing but grow. Because at that time, or at that point too, one thing you always know too, especially, and this is kind of a pro tip for you, if you have a parent that's a little bit more, or like a parent of a student that's more inconsistent, get the parent involved. Because on the days where they're, for us, on a day where a parent is cooking, their student is going to be there, because if they took the time to cook, they're going to make sure their kid is there. So, on those days, you're definitely going to have that student. And so, again, when we're talking about growth, I mean, and going back to what you were saying earlier, is having that buy-in. Because you're going to have some parents that are willing to do some things behind the scenes, but don't necessarily want to be seen, or necessarily having a personal relationship with the group as a whole. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But know the difference. And so, I think any way that we can involve our parents, even in kind of those, I always like to start with the things that I'm not good at, and then build from there, utilizing people's passions and their strengths to better serve the ministry as a whole.
Yeah, and I think what you just said is just this idea of like, we're not with the whole informing to involving parents. Don't just hand out information. Don't just give them a calendar and say, "Hey, see you next season," when you put out your next calendar. Don't do something to where it's just like a, "Hey, that's the only time they ever hear from you." Don't use that as an opportunity where it's just like, oh, okay, well, the parents are happy, I'm going to move on. Because, like, your goal with this, hopefully, is to invite parents into mission. And so, we both just said, the importance of valuing parents as allies and not obstacles is really, really important. And the thing is also parents want to know that you care about their kids. And so with that, the idea and the mindset that like, hey, not only am I going to tell you exactly what we're doing and exactly what we're teaching and when all the fun activities are, and I'm going to be upfront with dates and costs and everything else, which parents love, by the way. If you don't do that, you should definitely start. The other avenue and the other mindset behind it is when they see the extra mile that you put forth, or when they see and have opportunities to be in the walls of your youth ministry and see you building relationships with students and like hanging out with students and showing students that they matter, parents are going to eat that up, because at the end of the day, that's what they want for their kids. I mean, I think as parents, especially in church, we all want our kids to grow up and know Jesus, but a lot of people want their kids involved in youth group because they want them to find that place to where it is a safe place for them to find friends, to be real, to be authentic, and getting them to see that firsthand while they're serving in different aspects and different opportunities in your youth group is critical and huge. So
Mhm.
very,
And
very, very big.
I would even add, like, most of us are parents too. And if you're not a parent, do your best to try to put yourself in their shoes and consider what it's like to be a parent. As we're both parents ourselves, and Brent actually has a student in his youth ministry, which is crazy because it wasn't that long ago that he wasn't. But the thing I think about is, when a teacher or someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, your kid is killing it," like, you feel really good as a parent. And so, remember, the things that you hope to hear about your own kids are the same things that other parents want to hear about theirs. And so, this kind of moves us into our next point of how to partner with parents. But being able to send regular parent updates is huge. And I don't want to step on your toes there, Brent. I just realized I was like, I'm naturally moving us into our
No,
second
you're
point.
fine. You're fine. That's great.
And so go ahead, and then I'll get back to it.
No, you're good. No, you're right. I mean, the idea that like parent updates are huge, and I think there's two different routes that you can go with this. I am a firm believer that your parents need to hear from you weekly. And for us, that is just a hey, every Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a email that's scheduled to go out that says, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what happened last week. Here's what each of our groups are going to be teaching this week. And then also, I provide like parent articles, and I go through different resources and stuff like that. And then at the end of my deal is also a plea. It's like, look, our job as youth pastors is to walk alongside you, the primary discipler of your kids. And so with that, I think what we have to do is we have to be here to utilize and give you resources that you need. And so with that, if there's anything that you ever need, please, please, please let us know, and we'll make a resource or we'll find a resource for you. And it's actually turned out into some of our coolest resources that we've had. I had a parent a couple years ago that was like, hey, I really need a way to talk just talk about these situations that my kids are facing, but really like the best time that we have to do it is when we're all sitting down for dinner. She was like, so I just need some like guidelines for like a table discussion where we could talk about some of the hot button issues, to where they're not just hearing about it from everybody else, they're hearing it from us too. And I was like, dude, that's great. Like, what do you have in mind? And so they gave me like 6 or 7, and I was like, this is a really cool idea. I'm going to open this up to the rest of the parents, and I'm going to, yeah, I don't like you. Uh, for all the people listening audio, David just did 6, 7.
He said it.
Yeah,
I have
yes.
to.
But so with that being said, I opened it up to the rest of the parents, and I ended up getting like 20 or 25 different topics that we've kind of went through, and basically just made this resource that we called Table Talks. And basically there were these postcards that I got printed, and it was kind of like a deck of like 20, 25 postcards, and each card addressed a certain topic. It had QR codes for different articles that they could look into the subject more. It had a brief discussion on how we would handle the conversation. And it was just an opportunity to where like the parents literally had a tangible resource that they could have in their hands that gave them real life application answers to some of the hot button issues of the day, like why is homosexuality a sin? Why are drugs actually illegal? Like stuff like that. I mean, and we gave biblical aspects, biblical answers. And it was just an opportunity and a resource that really, really kind of turned out cool. And it was all because a parent said, hey, I need help. And we responded. And so really, really cool. But yeah, so use those opportunities, have resources, have conversation guides. I don't do this now, but I've in the past, especially when I was the only one teaching on Wednesday night. It gets harder when you have multiple people teaching. I would give our parents a small group conversation guide that had different questions than what we were addressing that night, so they could take and carry the conversation home. And so utilizing those resources, giving them opportunities to have those conversations or be a part of those conversations too is really, really important. And then finally, David kind of said it, and I am kind of reiterating it. Have parents around, whether they are cooking, whether they are standing in the back being that extra warm body that most of us need for safety purposes, whether they are small group leaders, whether they help you on the worship team, whether you have one of them that is just really, really happy-go-lucky and they're a greeter, whatever, use them and give them opportunities to serve alongside you so they can see what's going on. And all else fails, do parent nights. Involve your parents in some way. I've done parent meetings to where if the parent brought their student with them, the kids got like an extra snack or something the next Wednesday night. And so we had a parent meeting, and then we did this opportunity to where we had a gym at the time. And the thing that we did at the very end before we closed is we did parent versus student dodgeball. And the parents absolutely ate it up because they wanted to be a part and just have fun. Other than that, right now we don't have a gym, so we utilize it differently. We have 2 parent worship nights a year, to where the parents are invited to come up and worship with us. If they are involved in a small group at our church, they literally can come worship with us and then go to their small group still. But it gives them an opportunity to come in, be with their kids, worship together, and it's just an opportunity for, once again, parents to be involved in what you're doing. Because I think ultimately this kind of goes into, and if you have anything to say, David, feel free to stop me. But I think this goes into the other mindset of ultimately with parents, what you're aiming for is the long game. You are wanting parents to have buy-in, and realistically, for most of these situations, you want parents that are bought in way longer than their kids are actually in the program. You want them to trust you. You want them to be willing to serve and be like able to volunteer in different aspects. You need to have your go-to people that, like, in the spur of a moment, if you run into trouble, you're like, oh, hey, I need, in David's perspective, oh man, like it's Friday night and our dinner for Sunday backed out. Who can I call? You want to have those lists of people that you can be like, oh, hey, like this is, I know that without a shadow of a doubt they have my back and they will drop what they're doing to help. Those people are super, super huge. And the thing is students graduate from your group, but parents don't. They don't have to. And so I have a set of parents that they started volunteering in my ministry in when their daughter was in 6th grade. She's a junior in college now. And so it's just an opportunity where, like, they literally have walked her all the way through youth and they stayed after she left, and they are still teaching 6th grade and just utilizing this opportunity because they love it. It is something that they love to do. It's something that they love being a part of. And so utilizing that as an opportunity has been really, really good. And then the thing is like, you also have this super, super trustworthy set of parents that that you've seen them through the goods and the bads, through fires, through successes and victories. Like you can trust them because the trust is already built. And so like they are one of our strongest volunteer groups, and it's because they've been here as long as I've been here, which is really, really cool. And so once again, it goes back to parent trust. When you have volunteers that have been in the program for a long time, and they are like people in the church that people know, that's also another opportunity for you to build trust with the parents of kids currently in that program. So parent trust equals stronger student retention. The more trust you have from parents, the more students stay.
And I want to also address something that we have both seen before. There are youth pastors out there who are really nervous about having parents involved in their ministry for various different reasons. I've heard some that are really practical, just in the sense of like when if you have a ministry that has lots of parent involvement, some students aren't going to feel comfortable going a little bit deeper because they need a safe space where they can talk and their parents aren't around. And I totally agree with that. I think there's got to be moments where a student can say that. And I've had conversations. I mean, the moment we knew we were pregnant with our kid, one of the first questions I asked my wife is, "What if our kid needs a different youth pastor?" That's totally fair, and things that you think about. And so I do think we have to have some kind of intentionality there where students can be open to say there are moments where I need to have a conversation with someone without my parent there. And, a lot of parents are very understanding of that. Truthfully, we've like specifically, I've got a couple of parents that are they go to a Sunday school class of their own, but they are backups for us if for whatever reason some of our volunteers can't be there on a Sunday. Like this upcoming Sunday, we'll have one, and she just said, "Hey, anytime, come pull us out. We'll be there for you." Kind of situation, and there's an understanding with their kiddos where they're like, "Hey, we're happy with mom being there. Like she's awesome. She provides a lot of insight and it can really help the other students." And so they're super open to that. But there was an intentional conversation with those students to make sure that there's a level of comfortability, but also a level of understanding that, hey, for us to run a ministry, we have to have parents involved. We have to have volunteers because we want to keep you safe, and we want everybody to have an opportunity. And just because you don't necessarily want your parent around doesn't mean that everybody else doesn't, because the rest of them see your mom as like the coolest person in the world. And so you got to remember that. And then the other side of that too is I do know that there are youth pastors that have been burned pretty bad by parents. I've certainly experienced that. I'm sure Brent has experienced that. And it's easy to get a little skittish when it comes to parents. If that's you, don't give up. I really want you to hear that. Don't give up. There are Parents can be absolutely our greatest strength and our greatest allies, and at times they can also be some of our biggest challenges. There are times where, as a youth pastor, I have certainly thought the phrase "youth ministry would be so much easier if I could just be with the students." Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it is, but I'll tell you, more of your wins are going to come with having parents along. So if that's you, keep pushing through, keep building trust with those parents. Let them see all the incredible things that you're doing and the intentionality that you have, and stuff like that. I promise you, it'll get better. I really, from someone who has experienced that and it has gotten better. Stick with the long game. That's why we're calling it the long game, because you're as much as you're trying to build trust with the parents, they're also trying to build trust with you. And so keep pushing. And there's small things that you can do that can really help build and cultivate that relationship, even if it's a strained relationship. Things like taking a picture when you notice that their student is doing something pretty incredible and you just want to brag on it. Sometimes that can be while they're doing something like you know maybe they're in the band or they play a sport or whatever, and you took a picture while you were at their game and just said, "Hey, that was awesome," you know, really excited about that. Or maybe just seeing them in a service moment, things like that can make a real difference. I teach a lot of students music, and so I send pictures and videos of their kids learning. And that is one of the coolest ways to go, "Hey, look at all the incredible things." Because a lot of times they get done with the lesson, they get home, and they're like, "Hey, how was the lesson?" Or they get to the car or whatever. "How was the lesson?" And they're like, "It was good." That's all a kid is going to tell their parents. Let's be completely honest. Or, "It was okay." "Well, can you tell me about it?" "Yeah." That's all they're going to get. And so me sending a video of them actually playing the thing and actually nailing the lesson, they go, "Wow, I didn't know they were getting that good." I'm like, "No, they're phenomenal." And as a parent, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome." And so little things like that can really become a big thing. The more you encourage, the more you show what you're doing and the relationship that you have with their kid, the more they're going to respond, and that can shift a relationship that's a little dicey to something that's pretty good. And then you can use that parent in a way to multiply your youth ministry, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect with that, especially when you're looking at the potential toxicity of parents sometime, is just this mindset of like part of the long game is you have to know who they are and you have to know where and when they don't need to be around. I'm not saying don't involve them, but I'm saying that if you have a very, very loudly outspoken parent that does not um, quietly express beliefs, you probably don't want them as a small group leader. Because if you ever say something that they disagree with, even if it's small, they're probably going to be vocal about it, and they're probably not going to wait till a respectable or good time to address the fact that they disagree with something that you said. And so it's not necessarily that like, oh, don't invite parents that challenge your authority or anything to that nature. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I do think that there's a time and a place for those conversations and those corrections. And some parents will not wait for that right time. They will just jump the gun and go. You also probably want to make sure that Helicopter Mom is not a paintball sponsor. Or you probably don't want to have the dad that has no safety concerns at all come and be a part of the like really really crazy dumb things that y'all do. There's a mindset and there's a practice of following all these different things, and it's not necessarily that you don't want them there, but once again it goes back to the long game of planning out and being intentional on what parents go where and how you involve parents. And so with that being said, I have a firm rule in our group, and it is something that we've only broken twice, and it was with very, very, like, we could not do it any other way. And it was the mindset of if you are a parent in our youth group, you do not have your own children. And so the way that we've kind of navigated that and worked around it is just this mindset of like they are in another group than you are. And so we had one time to where it was we had two kids that were both in junior high at the same time, and she was one of the two small group leaders, and it was like either we stick both siblings in the same group, which is also not a great thing to do, or we have one of them in the parents group. And so we just sat down with the kids and we're like, hey, I here's the situation we have. Like, this is what we're dealing with. Is it more important for y'all to be separated as siblings, or is it more important for you to be in a group that's not led by your parent? And one of them goes, oh no, I'd much rather be with my mom than my brother. Like, and it's like, okay, well that's how we do it, and that's how we navigate that situation.
I love it when it works out like
And so,
that.
yeah, and so just utilizing different opportunities for that is really really important. We had a volunteer, or we had a mom step in one time that was quite honestly, she was one of those loud, overbearing moms that really, really wanted everybody to know what she thought. And we were in a really, really big pinch and utilized her to close out a semester because we lost a leader. But we had a volunteer lined up for the next semester, and we're just like, hey, thank you for stepping up. Like, this was such a huge help, kind of thing like that. And it was a way to where we could still honor the fact that she wanted to step up. But it was also one of those, just like, we really don't want you to be the permanent long-term leader because we don't really feel like you're a great fit. So how do we handle that? How do we navigate that situation? We utilized her for when we absolutely needed her, because she still did step up and offer her time, and she showed up every single Wednesday night and she was there. Now, granted, with that, there were a couple times where she spoke up and it was like, hey, like, let's handle that later. But it was also one of those things. It was like, all right, we have like 4 weeks to figure out our next small group leader. Like, we got to get on this. We got to get going. And so finding those opportunities to where you can not like respectfully utilize parents, but also have in the back of your mind of like, hey, this might not be the best situation for this parent to step in. So why don't we utilize them somewhere else? So it's a way where you can still partner with parents, but it's all strategy. It's all just being intentional with where and what you give parents to do. And yeah, so utilizing parents that will ultimately be a resource and be a blessing for the ministry opportunities that you need is kind of the ultimate goal. But quite frankly, like, parents don't have to serve exactly where they want to serve. I totally agree with David on the mindset of like, find their skill sets and find their passions and utilize them. Um, and I've had some really, really crazy stories from utilizing parents, and just some absolutely outstanding things that have come out of it. Had a parent that was a Texas game warden one time, and so I was like, oh hey, I was like, so like, could we do a fishing trip? And he was like, yeah. He was like, not only can we do a fishing trip, he was like, I'm going to take you to the back part of the lake that only game wardens can access, and we're going to go fish off the spillway. And he was like, you have never experienced fishing like this before in your life, and you never will again. And I was like, okay, well, cool. Can we, like, how can we make this more? He was like, oh, why don't we just, there's a game warden cabin out there. Why don't we just go ahead and utilize the fact that the kids are going to catch their dinner, and then I'm going to teach them how to fillet fish, and then I'm going to teach them how to cook fish. And I was like, okay, like, this is cool, like, definitely an opportunity. And so, no kidding, we had a group of about 15 kids that went with us. We fished off the spillway, and then literally we gave them all fillet knives, and like, one by one they learned how to fillet fish. And then not only that, they bred their own fish, they fried their own fish, and they literally cooked, they caught, prepped, and cooked their own dinner that night. So it's just opportunities for, like, if you have skill sets that parents have, utilize them if you can. Now, there are some out there that you're like, I don't really know if that fits, but still, they might have a leadership characteristic, or they might have a hobby that really, really orients towards the group as well.
I mean, you really speak about such a huge need too. Like, having parents that, I mean, let's be completely honest, we all have students that don't have a good home life and aren't taught basic things that we think. Sometimes we assume that students know these things, but I think
Yeah.
with something like that, not only does that create memories, but also I think of other things like how to change oil, how to change the tires on your car. What is it? You know, even other things like other life skills, like how to fill out a resume, how to apply for a job, how to interview, and bringing people inside your that are inside the church. Don't even always have to be parents of your students, but maybe are good at financing or good at different things like that, and you can pull in more people to be an asset and a resource to your students, and it really blesses the person who gets to use those skills to teach students. And so, think outside the box, get creative, look at the group of students you have, and ask the tough, not really tough question, but ask a question like, would it be beneficial to show them car care or financial resources, whatever it might be, and who could maybe fill that? And look at your parents first, and then if you don't have a parent, then look a little, zoom out just a little bit more into the congregation. You never know; it could create a dynamic where that person got to serve, and they go, "Oh, this is awesome. I want to serve in other ways." Or it may even be something like, man, these students are awesome, and I want to see more students come, or I want to see others. So now they're telling their friends, like, this youth ministry is awesome, and you should send your kids. Maybe they didn't do that before.
Yeah.
Now they do. So, I mean, look at those outside things as opportunities to, again, multiply.
Yeah. For what it's worth, that event was called Zombie Survival Guide. And we also just utilized it it was a fun, kooky way for I didn't tell kids any details about that event.
Awesome.
I literally said, hey, show up, make sure you're wearing clothes that you can be outside in, have closed-toed shoes on, and that's all I told them.
Please tell me you brought Nerf guns and had like a zombie tag.
No, I did not, because
Oh,
fishing took all of the time that we had.
all the time you had. Yeah, I believe that.
But not
100%.
to mention that the lake was like 35 minutes away from where we lived.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
but it was one of those things. It was like add fun, add spontaneity to it, add some variety, but like utilize the parents where you can, because it's a really really cool opportunity. And I do have pictures from that still. And so if you would like to see a picture of it, I'm totally going to use this as an opportunity of like, hey, if you listen to this podcast, once again, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to see a picture of all of my students holding up these massive hybrid fish, that were all caught off of the spillway at, in East Texas, send me an email, Brent at studentministryconversations.org, and I will email you the picture, or you can reach out, hey Brent Aiken, on social media. But yeah, no, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I want to see the picture, definitely reach out, because I'd love to hear from you. And then also just any perspectives on ideas and fun things with parents that you've done in the past, you can reach out and tell us those as well. And we'd love to highlight some of those on social media. So, but yeah, long game, be strategic, utilize resources. If you have a parent that is a 5-star Michelin chef, then utilize that. Another parent we had in that group, she literally owned a bakery. Needless to say, every time we had anything that I could utilize a cake for, I was like, hello? Like, can you make a cake for this? Hey,
This isn't even a you thing. Can you just make me a cake?
Yeah, right. I just need a cake. Like, no. It was just utilizing parents and doing that opportunity. And then also going into the ideas of what you said of like changing oil and stuff like that. I know another youth pastor that did something they called the Senior Survival Guide, and it was like a 12, or I don't think it was 12. I think it was like 8 weeks maybe. I think it was like 8 weeks right before they graduated, where every Sunday night they met together and they did, one night was, and like the person that led each of the activities was also the one that taught them a lesson. And I wish I could take credit for this because it was such a cool idea. But like, so someone taught them how to change their oil and change a tire, like if they get a flat. Someone taught them how to balance a budget. Someone taught them how to apply for student loans. Someone taught them a bunch of other different things. I don't remember exactly. I think one of them even taught them how to do laundry, because that was one thing that, like, when you get off to college or get off by yourself, you have to know how to do that. And so it was just all these things. So I was like, what are 8 things that kids don't know that they need to know before they leave? So just utilize opportunities for parents to step in and step out and be a huge part of your program, and you will see the benefits of it. I promise. It works.
Will you send me that?
What?
Your 8 things?
It's not my
I was
resource.
writing down everything. Well,
sorry. It's not my resource. Otherwise, I totally wish, because I would love to take credit for it. I heard it in a conference one time, and I was like, oh,
that's brilliant.
That is so cool. Yeah, but no, not my resource, and I don't know if I have notes from it or not. I'll look. But with that being said, parents are a huge deal. The lifeblood of your group. Like, if you can get parents behind you, you will last longer as a youth pastor in your church. You will have more buy-in from the church congregation as a whole, and you will have more students show up, because parents push students, especially junior high students. Parents are responsible for getting their kids there. So if you have parents in junior high that don't trust you and they don't really care if they're a part of your group, then guess what? They're probably not going to really make it a priority to bring their kids to your group. So very, very much a thing to consider and to navigate as you're thinking about how to grow your group. And the biblical tie-in for this week is Deuteronomy 6, verses 6 and 7. And it's just the aspect that parents are the primary disciplers of their kids. Our goal and our role is to walk alongside them, and our goal is to be there for them in any way, shape, or form that we can. And so utilize those opportunities. And I just realized that Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7 was not in my actual notes for this episode, so I'm looking it up real quick. And it says, "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up." Basically saying that as a parent, which some of you youth pastors listening are parents, it is not your job as a youth pastor to disciple your kids. It's your job as a parent to disciple your kids. And so utilize those opportunities, and then ultimately be that resource for parents, and say, hey, if you need help navigating these conversations, reach out and we will give you resources. There are some great ones out there. Um, I don't see it on my bookshelf. Um, but I think it was, I don't know if it was Lifeway or another. They did like a parent guide for like every single grade, of like what your kids will experience and stuff like that. And just give me 1 second. I'm gonna look on my bookshelf. It's too far away from me to look at.
All right. But yeah, I think it's important to understand, as Brent was saying, like our job is to walk alongside parents, not to replace them. And sometimes you're going to have parents that are going to look at you like it is your job to handle all the spiritual aspects, and we need to always be encouraging parents to do that. And if they don't feel equipped, that's where we get to step in and help them, and that's where we can get them resources. We can have those conversations when they say, "Hey, how do I talk to my kid about the events of last week?" Which the events of last week being the shootings that happened around the world, because it wasn't just a politician that died. There was also a school shooting 20 minutes after that. There are a lot of violent things happening in our world, and there are students that are asking really hard questions because of it. And we don't always know what to say. And sometimes being able to tell a parent that it is okay to not have an answer, and to say, "Hey, I'm gonna seek some wisdom on it, and would love to talk to you more about it later." Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to say that,
Yeah.
and stuff like that can really help a parent. Did you find it?
Yeah, so the resource
Cool.
is from Parent Q. I was wrong. And so it is a whole series of books, and it's parenting your whatever, like sixth grader, or actually it goes from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Or it might even have a college student one, but it's parenting your, and then whatever grade or whatever age your kid is. And it literally goes through, and it has notes. It has questions for you to answer. It has questions for like opportunities for you to like share stories and remember things of like, hey, like what's something funny that they've done this year, kind of thing like that. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
uses as like a memory database for like you to go back and like reminisce on later. But then also it's like it goes in. It says, look, it's like you may notice that in ninth grade they come home with a few new friends. The average high school has 750 teenagers, 250 dating couples, and more than 50 options for extracurricular activities. With so many opportunities to connect, your high schooler may find their place in engineering class or a debate team in drama club or on the basketball court or YMCA or beta club. Like just basically saying like these are things to expect. These are things that you might experience as having a ninth grader in your home. And it'll talk about the school dynamic. It'll talk about behavioral, emotional, and they're just really, really cool resources. But it's by Parent Q. And I think you can buy individual grades, but you can also go in and buy like the K through 12 set of books. And so maybe this is something to where you use this as a resource where you offer it to parents, and like every parent can have a copy for the grade that they're in. Or you just point them to Parent Q and say, hey, this is an awesome resource. I know it's a little expensive, but we'll cover half the cost as the church. Or you buy a series of the books yourself, and then you utilize these as opportunities for your kid, like for parents to walk through these things, and you just send it out in email format and just say, hey, there's this really, really good opportunity, this book called Parenting Your Ninth Grader, where you have a ninth grader and it's going to be something that you probably experience this year, that your kid does XYZ. Here's things to think about. Here's conversations to have. And my question for you this week is, how do you navigate da 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 da? And like use it as an opportunity to once again have that communication with your parents. It's a really, really cool thing to have. But yeah, so parenting your whatever grade, your parents have students in. Really, really cool resource. It's on ParentQ, which I think their website's like parentq.org or something to that nature, or theparentq.org. But their resources should be on there. But really, really cool resource. And it's a great one. So, in that, it is pretty much time for us to close this episode. I will leave you with 3 challenges like we've been doing for the past pretty close to 2 months. Number 1, text 3 parents encouragement this week. Hey, your kid did this. It was awesome. Super, super proud of them. You should be too. Number 2, share your ministry vision with your parents. Occasionally, when I have extra time, I'll do a super long-winded email and explain something that we do in our youth program, and go into really, really like vivid detail on why and how and what we do and the purpose behind it, just so parents can be on the same page and understand why we do what we do. And then finally, invite a parent into deeper involvement in your program. Maybe there's a parent that would be a great small group leader. Maybe you need a Sunday night or a Wednesday night meal. Maybe you need, I don't know, a chaperone for an event. Maybe you just need a parent to be up there and be involved. Whatever it is, invite a parent this week to be involved deeper in your youth program. All great things, great conversation, a really, really good thing for you to understand and grasp. And if you haven't started this mindset of partnering with parents, you really, really need to take off with it, because it will benefit your group. And so with that being said, though, that is all the time that we have for today. Share our podcast on socials. That would mean the world to us. We don't do any advertising. I say this every now and then, never have, realistically probably never will, because we don't make money on this podcast. We do this because our goal is to inspire, encourage, and equip youth pastors just like you, who are in the trenches doing youth ministry, so you can be a better youth pastor for the church that you're serving in. We have had different podcast hosts on here. We have had tons of different guests in previous seasons. And so if you haven't had an opportunity to go back and listen, we have, I think this is what, David, episode 222 or something like that, which means that we have over 200 episodes before this one that you probably haven't listened to all of them. And so a quick search, you can go find and listen to some other ones. And then just share them with youth pastor friends, share it with someone that might need to hear this aspect, just for the fact of when you share, it gives us opportunity to reach out to more youth pastors. And ultimately that's our goal, is we want every youth pastor to listen, and hopefully maybe one youth pastor hears what they need to hear, to keep going for another week, to get their plan into action or do whatever they need to continue doing ministry. And so with that being said, that is all the time we have today. Next week, we will close off our month of September of growing your group, and then we will be moving into a different topic for the month of October. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being a youth pastor or a volunteer, bivocational, whatever you are listening to this. You genuinely are making a difference, even when you don't see it, we promise. And if you need someone to personally tell you that, me and David are always here. You can reach out to us, Brent at studentministryconversations.org, David at studentministryconversations.org, or find us on social media. We're tagged in the episode description on socials, so you can reach out to us, and we'd love to talk to you and encourage you and be that voice for you. But until then, we'll see you next week, and have a great week serving and loving on students.